Awesome.
Okay. And so I know a lot of times as we are representing the church and so many of us we strive to do so in a way that is professional and is pious, but sometimes that can come across as rigid or possibly unapproachable. And so that is really what we need to guard ourselves against. I know I have several examples myself where I have, just been so busy and been in the day to day and trying to get through my tasks for the day, and there's just so much I'm feeling overwhelmed that I sometimes I forget to smile, you know, and just try to really try to make sure that I'm representing Christ and his church and in a way that is attractive to people. And so I'm sure that you've had those sorts of situations yourselves where you've encountered maybe a colleague, possibly a priest, maybe someone that represents another ministry of the church. Maybe it hasn't been a personal situation, a face-to-face sort of encounter, but maybe it's been something through social media or something through some sort of digital uh, communication or something online, whatever it may be. I'd like for you just to kind of take a minute of to think about when maybe you've had that experience where you thought, gosh, like that was not the best encounter. That was not the best representation of our church. And as you think about that, I want you to think about what is it that that individual did, said, maybe didn't do, didn't say, as as you sort of reflect on that. What made that encounter not what it could have been or should have been for you? And once you sort of have something, I just urge you to maybe just toss it into the chat. Like if there was something in particular that sort of comes to mind for you of what that experience was lacking. I know you guys have had these experiences before. The chat is quiet. Oh, there it is.
I'm typing fast.
Yeah. Fair, fair. Um, okay. So lack of context of connection to the larger mission of the church. Two interactions recently where the biggest trait lacking was warmth.
Mm.
Yeah, it's true. General lack of feeling welcome or needed at a parish when the school is already full. Yeah. There is a presumed internal institutional knowledge. The tight-knit community reads as cliquish. So, so true. That's good. That
Hmm.
was worth the wait.
Yeah.
Lack of remembering we are all on the same team and feeling like a number. All so good. Kayla, to your point, I often say that sometimes we can be our own worst enemy as a church. Like we all love the same God and we're all, trying to do the same thing. And it'd be so much better if we could work together than work against each other. Uh, Nancy, recently with the Pope passing, the quickness of what we had to do lacked cooperation between all. Yeah. Yeah. And I think the pace of which we work, especially in communications, can certainly impact that a lot of times. Okay, well, I don't want to dwell on what we are lacking. I really want to focus more on the reverse. So now I want you to think about an interaction that you've had with someone from the church that, or someone that represents the church that has been relatable, has been more relational. When has someone been more approachable, has been more inclusive, been more loving? Go ahead and once you think through that, go ahead and share that in the chat as well. So what is just the reverse of what you were just reflecting on? An example of someone who's just doing it right and making you feel wanted and loved and included. Encountered a visiting bishop who went out of his way to greet staff members. He radiated Christ's joy. In the midst of business of the workday, someone allowing themselves to be interrupted to receive me, keeping eye contact and making me feel seen. It's sort of just the simplicity of a greeting, of a taking the time out to welcome, the value of eye contact. I mean, there's so much to be said for that, no doubt. Kate was at Bishop Rice. He often does that. A parishioner who is a postnatal loss doula who has been sharing her gifts and talents in a miscarriage ministry. She's so good at hospitality and meeting people where they are in every case. Met two pastoral associates on a very busy Sunday. They could not have been more present and welcoming. So many of these examples are not, they're not profound. You know, it's just who's taking the time out of their day to care about the other individual, to acknowledge the humanity of those around them, to take their loss and turn it into something good for others, giving of themselves, generosity. Eye contact with a coworker when working together felt so welcoming. Just simple eye contact can do so much, can mean so much. You know, I know that we've probably all been thinking a lot over the past week or so about a certain individual. And I just kind of want to take a moment to sort of share uh, our experience of, I guess you can't see this as a slideshow, huh? We
It's
went through
just
this
one.
before, didn't we? Can you see that?
We saw an image, yeah.
Do you see it now? Do you see the Pope?
Yes.
Perfect. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Hold on. What is happening here?
Now we see your notes. We
You
know what
see
you're
my
going to say
notes?
next.
Now you don't see my notes?
Not anymore.
Okay. I tell you what, dual screens are confusing. Okay. However, my point is the Pope he was always doing this really well. Now, obviously, I did not know him personally. I did not work with him, interact with him daily, but at least his public persona, he's known as the People's Pope, and he always is sharing a smile. He was always kind of showing his humanity and creating opportunities for people to engage with him in new and unique ways. You know, he would welcome children to come to him. He would embrace them. He would show them love. He was patient. He took out time to be with them. Um, and these were experiences that I think really changed people's perception of the church globally because of one man's, I mean, we all get busy. I can't imagine the workload on this man's desk, but you'd never know it. He made everyone that he encountered feel like they were the most important person. Um, this particular example I was reading about, uh, this young boy was in an audience with the Pope, and uh, the Pope addressed him, and he couldn't speak. He was just crying. He was sobbing, and he couldn't talk. And the Pope just stopped, and he just told him to come to him, and he just embraced him. And when have we seen something like that before in the church? And they had a conversation, and the boy gave him permission to share his story, but he was crying because he had lost a parent recently, and he was worried that his parent, I can't remember if it was mom or dad, was going to make it to heaven because they weren't practicing their faith. And so the Pope he pastored him, you know, despite the level of authority and importance and stature that he had. he took that moment to just love him. And think of the difference that that had on this young man. But think of the difference that that had on the church globally, witnessing that and seeing that. And those are the examples of love that we need. And we were seeing it from our leader, and hopefully we'll see it from our next. But this is what we as individuals, as professional Catholics ourselves, need to prioritize in our own communications, but also to coach those that are our leaders, to be able to do this, to be able to take the time out to love those around them and to show that care and concern, make that eye contact, share their stories, share personal experiences, kind of show their humanity. Yesterday I was scrolling. I got stuck scrolling, and I ran across this quote from uh, the head of communications for the USCCB. He said that he had just seen Pope Francis in January, and he shared this message, which I thought was really valuable. Communicating for us is not a tactic. It is not a technique. It is not the repetition of catchphrases or slogans, nor is it merely writing press releases. It is an act of love. That's communications. And that's what we're called to as Catholic communicators. And I think that he set a really great example for us in what that means. And so as we think about how we approach our communications and just how we go through our day to day, and we think about interpersonal communications in and of itself, there were a few tips we had shared with the seminarians when we were with them. And so I've consolidated them because they had 10. I'm going to give you 5. The first is that social communications is a tool for good. It's an opportunity to lead dialogue and storytelling. And I'm gonna stop the share just so we can see each other. And so as we think about that, and I know most of you probably know, but I think it's always a good reminder to remember that the the global church, the Vatican, is often sending us messages about communications. There have been papal documents about communications throughout the history of the church, about the value and importance of good communications. And it continues to obviously evolve over time. There's a pontifical council for social communications that exists because they recognize the importance of the work that we do. Um, and every year on the Feast of St. Francis de Sales, whose feast day is in January, on that day, the Pope will release a message for World Communications Day, which typically World Communications Day is in May. It's actually going to be on June 1st this year, but something that that is in this year's message, which I forgot, I added a slide for this as well, so you could see it. The theme is share with gentleness the hope that is in your hearts. Share with gentleness the hope that is in your hearts. And in this year's message, it tells us, for us Christians, hope is a person. He is Christ. And it is always linked to a community project. When we speak of Christian hope, we cannot disregard a community that lives the message of Jesus in such a credible way as to give a glimpse of the hope that it brings, and is capable of communicating the hope of Christ with deeds and words even today. So again, it's drawing us back to the humanity of the church. The church is not a building, the church is the people, it's us. And so how was Christ? How did Pope Francis, how did the person that you reflected on at the beginning represent the church in a real and positive way for you? And that's what we're called to as Catholics and as Catholic communicators, is to have hope in the person, and that is Christ. And I just think it's an important reminder for us to reflect back on that as we think about it in relation to interpersonal communications. It's not about putting out the best press release. It's not about having the best looking website. It's not about having the most beautiful visuals as much as it is to be good people and to be someone that people want to be around and relate to and are drawn to because of the peace that's within us and the love that we show, and just the simple smile and eye contact that we share. So knowing that the the Vatican releases, the Pope releases this message every year, and we always have kind of a new set of content to go back to each year, which is always, I think, very valuable. And it's just a good reminder for us to know that this is there for us. And we're always being given guidance in our work. Um, Something else that sort of the next tip that we gave was to be like the apostles. So I know a text that many of us are familiar with is from Christendom to Apostolic Mission. And what this book reminds us or sort of introduced to us and sort of was the entrance into this dialogue about being in a post-Christendom era is that we're being called to be like the original apostles, to go out and to build relationships. Again, it's not necessarily to have the best written word, but to go out and to talk to people. And you think about, here's the book here, and there's this one page that I always go back to. I've got it tagged in the book that my copy of it. But it says, imagine the gathering for the first evangelization committee meeting. Their agenda is to bring the gospel of Christ to the world, to no small order. And in that time, their resources were very, very scarce. There were 11 bishops, the same number of priests, no deacons, no trained theologians, no religious orders, no seminaries, no seminarians, just a few hundred believers, one country with Christians in them. I mean, it was just they had nothing really, and there was just kind of really no reason for hope from a human standpoint. The human mind would say, "Why? How is this going to go anywhere? We have no resource, we have no money. There's just basically a few hundred of us." But what it says in the text is they weren't discouraged; they were filled with joy and hope. They had great confidence in the Lord and their message and in the creativity and fertility of the church. And I think we live in an age and a day where it's easy to get discouraged. We live in a time that is pretty secular and not necessarily always so um, favorable of the church. And so uh, I think it's a great reminder to us that we have to have hope in Christ and his leading us, his guiding us, and the Holy Spirit is always with us. And as a result of that, our job is just to go out and to build those relationships and to try to draw people in unique and creative ways. And that's what I think is really interesting is this day and age. We're so used to sort of this parish model, this Christendom model of we have parishes and people will come to us. If you build it, they will come to us. And again, the church is not just that building. It is not just the them coming to us anymore, but we need to go out and we need to put ourselves in sort of unique positions and and be creative in how we try to draw people in. And this was an interesting exercise we did with the seminarians was what is an example of a parish of what this could look like in a parish. So I don't know that I have actually seen a parish that's doing this really, really well yet. But I just wanted to take a moment to open up to dialogue with the group of are there certain examples that come to mind for you of a parish or a ministry who is doing this really well? Nothing. It was an interesting exercise with the seminarians because I we didn't have time to dive deep into their examples, but we broke them out into small groups just to talk through like imagine what does an apostolic parish look like? You were the pastor in 20 years from now, and what does your apostolic parish look like? And it was very challenging for them. And a lot of the examples and models that they shared were still pretty Christendom in mindset, truly. And God love them. I mean, none of us have really seen it happen effectively quite yet. But Liz and Mike, I see you both went off of mute.
Well, I was gonna say, one like baby step, like pre-step that I see in the parishes that I'm working at is um, we have one pastor serving two parishes, and I know it's becoming a more common model. And beginning day one, he really worked to emphasize that we are one team, that the staff is one team serving two locations. So
Mhm.
you think of Schnucks, like there's a Schnucks on Arsenal and a Schnucks on Gravois and a Schnucks in Ladue, and they all have different things they do well, but it's all Schnucks. And so, we are serving the people of the parish, but in this geographic region, but it's one unified team. And
Mhm.
you might have people who are on site more frequently in one place or another. But as the communications person, I have a kind of a base camp, but I don't have an office, and so I have a laptop and comfortable shoes, like is the joke. And so going the structuring the staff in such a way that it's the staff teams, down to the fact that it's like you don't have an office. You have an office that you use more frequently than not, but
Mhm.
the idea is any person could sit down at that desk and do what you do, is kind of key to the workflow of that.
Sort of like a mobile model in a way.
Yeah,
The
yeah. And
expectation is you don't be behind a desk, but you're out among the people.
right, and that like our business manager has to, I mean, business manager is different because you have to kind of have a secure location, but there is, it's not Crystal's office, it's the business manager's desk, like. And
Mhm.
so having that, but just into how we structure, um how Father Tom has structured the staff's understanding of where their bodies are supposed to be it has been really cool, and cool to be part of, because it's like, you shouldn't, I mean, certainly you need an office and time and space to work, but like, my office doesn't have a door, not by design for compliance reasons, but um but it is like, it's impossible to close yourself off from that,
Right.
from the people who are coming in to um, serve or be served or
Mhm.
encounter on. And then your body is supposed to be in church on Sundays, for, we have a presence on at the weekend experience, so split our time between Saturdays and Sundays among the staff, but working Sunday is being in church, and
Mhm.
being that ministry of presence there. So that's like the tiniest of baby steps
Mhm.
in that direction.
Thank you. Mike, did you have something to add?
Yeah, so in my parish, I sit on our evangelization team, and we spend a lot of time talking about how we can concretely, um, do what we're supposed to do and evangelize to people inside and outside the parish. And just some like interesting things that have happened. We're really big on personal invitation, be it to events or Bible study or mass. There are 92 first communicants making their first communions these next couple of weeks, and each of us are calling about a dozen and telling them that we're praying for them and that we'll be at the mass where they're going to make their first communion, and we'll have name tags and we have a little gift for them. Just kind of making it special because of how special it is.
Mhm.
And then some of us are going to go take a week-long course on accompaniment, which I think is all part and parcel of this effort of this, missionary discipleship that we're being called to participate in.
Nice. And where's that training at? Is that from the diocese or is that through ministry?
It's in an adjacent diocese. It's at St. Vincent College Seminary. The I don't know if any of you have ever heard of Father Hicks. His first name is escaping me. Um,
Well, Mike, it'd probably be good to share that you're not like there a lot are on the call are from St. Louis, but maybe share
oh
your
yeah, I'm
where
in
you're.
Pittsburgh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Father Boniface Hicks. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of Father
Oh yeah,
Boniface Hicks.
I think I
Yeah.
have. Okay, wonderful. Teresa, I see your hand is up. Thank you, Mike.
Yes, I just wanted to share when you were describing that and this beautiful just testament about Pope Francis and the message for World Day of Communications. I love that. And what I was thinking about, not so much a parish that I can really highlight as a great example, but we have something coming up in our diocese. I'm with the Diocese of St. Petersburg. We have something coming up in May, which I'm really excited about, and maybe some of you have heard about it. It's called Christ in the City. Are you familiar with that? Yeah. I'm
Mhm.
learning about it, and it's exactly what you're talking about. It's these missionaries who actually like they walk the streets, they walk the same routes every day to get to know people. It just sounds so apostolic. It just
Mhm.
sounds like exactly what you're talking about. They just get to know people. I mean, they're specifically focused on the homeless population, people who are overlooked, disenfranchised, and really have a lot of barriers to. Actually, they talk about there's poverty, the poverty, but then it's also the loneliness. That's one of the things that these people are really suffering more than anything else. That's a barrier to getting out of their situations. So they go and they just get to know the people, and they just want to be their friends and want to be their advocates. So it's really beautiful. So anyway, that's what I thought of when you were talking about and just explaining all of this. So I wanted to share that.
Wonderful. That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. Um, I know for myself, I'm in a fairly large parish in St. Joe Cottleville. So we have 5,000 families and we have two young associates. And I'm really encouraged by the work that they do because they are one of them, he goes out and he plays on all these different sand volleyball teams and it's a golf cart community. Everybody here has a golf cart. He bought himself a golf cart and he drives it around and lets the kids ride in the golf cart with him. Like it just doing things out in the community, being seen in ways that, like, I remember at one of the volleyball matches, somebody was like, he can do that. He doesn't have to wear his collar, like the black outfit that he's always at. Like, because again, this is coming from a Catholic parent who sends her 5 children to Catholic school, but doesn't know that our priests can engage with people in a human way. And our other young associate who just was ordained last year, he is a Eagle Scout, and so he's really engaged himself with the Boy Scouts, and he goes and celebrates Mass for them in specially unique ways. But he also shows up on the sidelines of the kids' sporting events. Just he puts himself out there in new and creative ways with young families that people aren't used to. I actually heard that he had just recently called a homeschool parent and said, "Aren't you having a meeting of homeschool families? Can I just come?" And he came and he just sat on the floor and played with the kids, and they were like amazed that he would do that. So even though I think there's those little things that we can do to kind of just insert ourselves are so valuable. But thank you for sharing the examples. But I think it's a real challenge. Like I think the real lesson here is that we weren't all jumping in and sharing quick examples right away because we're not quite there yet. So we're talking about it a lot, but we're just not quite there yet. And so what can we be doing and how can we be helping those that we're ministering with and to as well to think creatively and I think that sort of leads me into the next point and that is to lean into digital communications. I still think that that's sort of a fearful place for a lot of official church entities to venture into too creatively because we're so used to measuring each word that comes out, and there's a way that feels unrelatable or unapproachable because you can tell when something's over scripted, and so I think if we can put ourselves in unique positions and kind of present ourselves and show up in places where we're least expected to be, that's very much like Jesus was, right? He was hanging out with the tax collectors and the lepers and the woman at the well, the people that really no one would have expected him as a teacher to be with. But he wasn't over investing his time with those that were already believers, but he was out with those that were on the margins and that were not accepted. And so too, like with our communications, I think if we can kind of show up in unexpected places and be ministering to those that maybe never otherwise would have encountered the church. How can we do that in creative and different ways? And so just encourage you to kind of think about that. Like, where have you seen good examples of that happening in a digital space? How can you as a parish or a diocese or a seminary be presenting yourself in ways that maybe are out of the ordinary, but might surprise people in a good way. I think that that's a real challenge for all of us in ministry. We're just so used to kind of playing it safe, and I think we're at a moment now. It's sort of a new day. How can we be how can we be willing to sort of take some risks in what we're saying and doing? Another example that we had shared uh, with the seminarians is just a little bit about the news media and how to understand them and to use them to your benefit. And so, obviously, I will say that the media, if you're in a parish, for example, like you always want to reach out to the diocesan communications office first before reaching out to the media outright, right, Teresa? But I did want to just share a little bit of the perspective. Um, so first, I think sometimes when we think about the media, we think we again kind of can be fearful or think, gosh, like they're out to get us, but they're people too, and we can either use them for good or we can use them for harm. So we have a picture of a hammer here because you can use a hammer to build a house, you can use a hammer to destroy a house, and so that's sort of a similar message that was in this pastoral instruction that came out on the 20th anniversary of Communio et Progressio, which is one of the papal documents that I referred to earlier. It says the media can be used to proclaim the gospel or to reduce it to silence in human hearts. And when I work with different partners, I think a lot about all the different types of media. There's paid media, um, and there's also earned media, and this kind of falls into the earned media category where we can earn ourselves a story. We have so many good stories as a church to share, but how can we do that effectively? How can we be more proactive in thinking and sourcing these good stories and maybe putting them in front of our media, and maybe even just starting with the Catholic media, because we have some of those resources available to us in our local markets and even nationally. But then beyond that, how can we utilize the secular media? Um, there's certain things where I think this cartoon, Steve Mamanella from our team found this cartoon and I love it. It's it just sort of gets to the point that really the members of the media are generalists at this point, and a lot of them are inexperienced. So this is just an example of them coming into the newsroom each morning and throwing a dart at a board and saying, "What am I going to be an expert in today?" Like back in the day, you'd have like religion reporters, and they understood the church and they understood what it is that we represented, and they knew the differences between the different types of faiths and things. But now they just don't really have a knowledge in Catholic things. I think the real irony in this cartoon is, if you probably noticed, none of the darts are making it onto the board. They're missing the board completely. So God love them. But they just don't have that specific training or expertise anymore like they used to have. So how can we help them understand who we are? And also just the pace at which information is coming out this day and age. I mean, it's just the speed of information is so fast. And this is just some statistics, but you can see like the number of cuts in newsrooms. I mean, it's just massive. And this is only through 2020. So, but there's been a lot of cuts. They're understaffed, they're under-resourced. They need our help to tell the stories. And so how are ways that we can utilize them as resources? They're in a lot of news reporters are in our pews. They're engaging with us in different ways from a human perspective. So how can we form relationships with them and then look for creative ways to help tell the good stories, the goodness that is happening in our world? I'm big on that because I used to work for USA Today, and the very first headline USA Today had that the first day that they published, there was a massive plane crash that killed a lot of people. But instead of the headline leading with how many people died, it led with how many people survived. And I think that's as church, like we need to stop talking about what we are against. We need to talk about what we're for and those good stories and the goodness that is happening. And quit being as defensive and guarded, but looking for those opportunities to tell the good stories that we have. So just some things to think about as we think about the use of media, because there's some real great opportunity there for us to form relationships and not be afraid of them because they're people too. Um, and then the final point that we shared with the seminarians, and I'll share with you, is that you're not alone. And as I sort of led the call with today, is that it's a real passion of mine to try to create a network for those of us who are communicators in the church. We're all trying to share the same message. We shouldn't be competing with one another, because rising tides lift all boats, and that's kind of where I'm at, and that's why we have these calls. So I want to create opportunities for you to know each other and to be able to lean on each other, so that if Mike is having an issue at his parish in Pittsburgh, he can call Liz in St. Louis, or Kate. Now you know Teresa in St. Petersburg. Like there, you guys can lean on each other and know that you're not alone, and that you also have us. We're here as well at KPC. And I think just by having some of that affirmation from one another, and just the relationship with one another, there's so much value in that. And then that's going to allow us to be able to radiate joy and hope in new ways, because we can find peace and comfort in leaning on one another. So, and just kind of the last point is just remember to pray. I know when I was in the Archdiocese of St. Louis, I was so busy, and I feel like there were so many days where I just forgot to pray. I mean, we had daily mass, and I tried to be really good about going to daily mass in the building, but then I'd have a meeting, or I'd have a deadline, or I'd have a fill in the blank, and I'd come up with an excuse why I couldn't make it. And it's like, gosh, in hindsight now, I look back to that and I think, gosh, I had such a gift right down the hall, and I wasn't taking advantage of it in the way that I could have and should have, and it probably would have brought me so much more peace in my time there. And so we can't forget to pray, because God's got us. And it kind of goes back to that earlier quote that I shared, that from the Pope. It's not about good press release. It's not the tactics. It's about who we're representing, and he's gonna carry us through. And we're gonna face spiritual warfare. I'm sure we all have, because the devil does not want us to succeed in what we do as communicators. But that's why we have to keep them close. So I'm going to conclude this part with a prayer, and then I'm just going to open it up to any other dialogue or sharing that the group would like to have. But just to keep us rooted in prayer, I want to share the prayer for St. Francis de Sales. I think you all know that this is my favorite prayer at this point. We've adopted St. Francis de Sales as our patron, and he is a patron saint of journalists, but communicators, Catholic communicators as well. So let us come together in prayer, and just really enter into this moment together. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Be at peace. Do not look forward in fear to the changes of life. Rather, look to them with full hope as they arise. God, whose very own you are, will deliver you from out of them. He has kept you hitherto, and he will lead you safely through all things. And when you cannot stand it, God will bury you in his arms. Do not fear what may happen tomorrow. The same everlasting Father who cares for you today will take care of you then and every day. He will either shield you from suffering or give you unfailing strength to bear it. Be at peace and put aside all anxious thoughts and imagination. Amen. All right. Well, thank you again, everyone, for listening to me. Just wanted to share a few of those tidbits, and give us opportunity to kind of reflect and share with one another. But we have about 13 minutes left, and really this is just an opportunity for open forum. If anyone has any questions that they are interested in maybe putting out to the group for input, or challenges that you're facing, projects that you're working on that you think might be helpful to get input from others, just anything, just want to open it up to you all.
Can I just share a really dumb anecdote to like just make everybody laugh about news reporting?
Sure.
Just for fun. There we had an experience at the parish. It was about 9:30 on a Sunday night. It was pouring down rain, and we had a small group meeting, like a small group session, Covenant nights. And so like after that night we do like, here's the recap and thanks for coming, and like so when people get home it's in their inbox. But I was finishing that up. The pastor is in residence at the rectory upstairs, and so I'm finishing up there, and the doorbell rings because the lights were on, and it is a reporter and a guy with a camera and a big light, and I'm like, speaking of not having a door to your office, I'm like, can I run out the back? Like, no, please no. Oh God, please, what? Oh, what could possibly, what, stupid man on the street question could you possibly have to ask me? And so I go over and I really hesitate. I mean, that was my first gut reaction at a Catholic parish on a Sunday night when a reporter shows up. And I open the door, and there's a little portico porch on the rectory, and the woman reporter was like, "Hey, can we stand out here? We're doing a report on the water main breaks in Dogtown," because there was another one with the all of the rain had like overwhelmed the sewer system. Could we just wait on your porch because we've got a couple of live check-ins? Can we just hang out here because it's disgusting out there? And like, is that okay? And I was so like instantly like relieved and happy. I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, come in. We have a bathroom. We have leftover food from Covenant night. Do you want some French onion soup from Panera? I mean, it was just like this instant thing, but it's so funny because like I work with the KPC team. I know reporters aren't out to get us or whatever. You know, we work with Ann Steffens and Steve Maminella, but it was so funny. Like that was my first
Your instant. Yeah.
my instinct reaction. But then it became a really lovely moment of encounter to offer that hospitality. And because the reporter had to be like, okay, I see people inside. They're going to come out and yell at me. Like they were probably going through the same thing on the other. It was just the funny, dumb. And Father Tom has a golden doodle, Hope, you know, who's just like delightful. So it became this moment of encounter that I think both of us were going into on either side of that conversation with complete nervousness. And then we realized we're just two women working late on a Sunday night for our jobs.
It's a good example. Thank you, Liz. Yeah, Teresa.
So that's a really great story. I can also piggyback that actually just reminded me of not in our diocese, like I said, I'm Diocese of St. Petersburg, but I know in the Archdiocese of Miami, which is also in Florida, there was a terrible tragedy that happened, and you probably heard about it. It made national news. It was the collapse of the Surfside condominium, you know, just very unexpected and just tragic. And so many people died. But there was a Catholic church very close to that condo. And so what happened was that they allowed the media, because the media from all over the country came to report on it, they allowed the media to park there, and they showed hospitality to the media who were there because they needed a place nearby to kind of just hunker down and kind of be like their hub. And so they did that. And not only that, but they were kind of course, experiencing a lot of trauma from having to cover that. And so the priest from the church started ministering to them. And so it was a beautiful example of just, interacting with the media in a way very unexpectedly, but beautiful way to witness our faith.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Well, and just to ask for your prayer intentions, we're beginning to launch in one of the parishes I'm working with, two parishes, Epiphany and St. James. I ask for your prayers for just our team as we begin to. We're launching a new way of using data for an entry point collection data entry point. So it's growth methods is the program, and it's the kind of thing like if you scan the QR code, then you're going to get notifications on like Saturday that's like, we loved seeing you, we hope to see you again, and it's really a 6-week cadence that then is going to break out into all of these different tiers. And it's taking a lot of the human work off of our plates, but letting us lean more into those moments of encounter when it's critical. And with any new program planning and launch, just ask for your prayers as co-communicators as we go through this, because I know there'll be great fruit from it and many opportunities for growth. So
I'm excited to learn how it
yeah,
how it goes for you, because I think we can share it with others for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm very excited. And then you sort of get to the precipice of excited, and then you're like, oh no, I'm scared again.
Yeah. God's got you.
Yeah.
Mike.
I don't want to let him down.
You won't.
Yeah, Katie, I just wanted to say, like, this is a great forum and you do a great job. This was a great topic. So I want to see what I can do to help grow attendance, because I think this is a really, helpful time that others should, kind of put on their schedule. So thank you for doing this. and great job.
Well, thank you.
Mm.
And I agree. I would love to see the network grow. We kind of have a different selection every month of people, but hopefully everyone continues to come and invites friends because I think the more there's power in numbers, the more we can be helping each other out for sure. Thank you, Mike.
Well,
Teresa.
and
Oh,
Mike, oh,
oh,
I was just going to say, Mike, why don't you and I connect? Because I work with Molly who preps the promo content. So maybe we can have like you get the preview of it to share. So you're not dependent on when we're sending that kind of stuff out, but to share with your networks and just work, one on one off of this to equip you to invite more people in.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah.
I'd love to, Liz.
Teresa, I
I was
see your
just
hand up.
wondering, yeah, I was just wondering about, Liz, what did you mention about this? Could you say that again? It was some growth something? What is it have a name, this technology you're launching or something? What is that?
Yes, it's growth methods. I am not a paid user, but growth methods is a really a ministry building program, and I think it's run through ACTS Technologies, but it's designed to help. We're looking at two different things. One is growth methods, and one is mission insights. And so Mission Insights is sort of more of a real time, like Nielsen Prism, Claritas Prism, Nielsen household thing, which we can get, but is dependent on self-reported data from the census. So, like our most current information is 2020. So the Mission Insights is going to give us a better, more accurate, real-time picture of the people in our area, their concerns, the ways in which we can help serve them. And then Growth Methods is an automated system. We soft launched it at Easter, and so if you scan the QR code, you get this cadence of welcome messages spread out over the next 6 weeks, and then you have different activation and invitation points, and it's asking people to do one specific thing, like, and it's not necessarily come to mass again. So those are all matrixed from our pastoral associate who um, is has a great deal of experience, has her master's in pastoral ministry, about what those invitation points are, and then we soft launched it at Easter for external audiences, and then we're looking at on Pentecost having a text serve to this, the phone number, and then work on kind of re-engaging parishioners who are maybe want to be involved or want to help, but don't really have a good sense of their skills, gifts, and talents. So we'll be then taking them through a strengths finder spiritual gifts inventory, and then moving them into more active ministry roles.
Wow, sounds very comprehensive. Where can people find information about that?
I can share updates on kind of how it's going, the good and the bad, but I can also send you the link, or I'll pop the link in the chat here real quick for Growth Methods, and it's Growth Methods and Mission Insights.
Thank you.
And those all integrate with existing, like, Servant Keeper, MailChimp, everything.
We have a couple minutes left here. Kayla, I'm going to call you out. Did you have anything? You've been quiet. Did you have anything that you wanted to share with the group? I know you're working on um, a website refresh for your parish. Kayla's at ICD, Immaculate Conception, Darden Prairie. So the other big church in our archdiocese, or parish in our archdiocese.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I've been there for I'll be there 2 years in August. And so this has been something that I've been excited about, like, doing since I got there, because I think it would really benefit the parish as a whole. So now it's in the works, and I think we're looking at ideally like the end of May, beginning of June with the relaunch. So just going through like drafts of home pages and stuff right now. So that's been really great, especially working with KPC on that. Um, let's see. Yeah, I also have a communications committee with other staff members that we meet every once in a while just to kind of talk about how communications are going in the parish. So that's been a good opportunity for me to like practice just like my leadership skills too, because this is my first job out of college. And yeah, the people I work with are really great, my coworkers, and like really want the parish to thrive in communications too. So yeah, but it's been going great and I'm getting really excited. We also had like a photographer come and get like fresh photos and video of our campus and some of like our larger events that have been going on. So we got Easter Vigil content and then First Communion. We do a volunteer appreciation dinner, which is the staff members serve all of like the volunteers and serve them dinner and stuff. So he's gonna come to that and get photos there. So yeah, but it's been going great.
Okay.
Do you
I
have
see.
the photographer link
Yeah, I can
or
get, so
portfolio?
it's a parishioner of our
Oh,
parish.
cool.
He
Yeah.
I
has, yeah,
saw some of the photos. They're really
They're
good. So
stunning. Yeah.
another good
yeah.
resource for us to use
Yeah,
elsewhere.
I can definitely, or how would what would be the best way to share that? Just like send it to you, Katie, and then,
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
forward it on.
okay,
Yeah.
Do
sounds
you
good.
think we can coax him to come east of 170? We'll get him
Yeah,
when he's coming for a game.
maybe, I
Yeah.
don't know.
He's doing really
Because
good work.
that photography in that visual storytelling is so key.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's true.
Kayla, is your committee, is it made up of staff members?
Yes, so I would say like 90% staff members. We have one or two parishioners that are just active in different ministries already or have been a parishioner for a long time that also come and help. But yeah, mostly staff members, and then we have some from the school too, our day school.
I've been thinking about, starting a communications ministry of volunteer like graphic designers and writers and photographers in our parish. Didn't know if anybody's ever heard of that.
Yeah, we did that in my parish for a short time before they had sort of hired a communications person, and we're about to restart it again because the skill sets are in the pews, right? I mean, like Kayla's experiencing with her photographer. So I think bringing together, I don't think it should be a huge group, but I think if you could bring together like particular positions, like people to represent particular types of skills and talents that can help aid the parish, I think there's a lot of value in that.
Mm,
Um, I have a breakdown, like sort of a breakdown of sort of the roles that we were looking for. I can send that to you, Mike.
I'd love
Just a
that. Yeah,
different,
thanks.
yeah, yeah. I think there's a lot of value in that. Well, hey guys, we are at time, so we're dropping like flies. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out. I just want to thank you again for joining us. And Mike, I agree with your sentiment. I would love to see this group grow. I'd love to create opportunities. Like I think it's great for someone like for Kayla because she's brand new, not brand new really anymore, 2 years almost. But then you have Teresa, who's decades in the diocesan communications office
That
leadership.
makes me
So,
sound old. It's
well,
okay.
you're seasoned. I call us seasoned. Um, but I think it's just great for us to know each other and be able to lean on each other. So anything you guys can do to help spread the word, the more the merrier, as they say. So with that, I'll wish you guys a great weekend. Enjoy the rest of your Friday, and let's continue to pray for our Cardinals as they make some very important decisions in the next upcoming days. So.
Oh, you
Thanks,
mean
Katie.
conclave? I thought you
Love
meant the
you.
team because they're
No.
different.
Oh, I didn't mean the Cardinals, the team. I meant.
I know.
All
Them
right.
Gotta
too.
go. Sorry. Yeah.
Bye bye.